god! Oh my god!
Everybody knows it. This is the Visitor, who seems like the master of Bob the Toolbox. Bob is a mod downloaded by Lookout from a website, but these aren't just normal videos. Every episode creates a wormhole, pulling you deeper into the masterpiece of lore. After watching every episode, I present to you something that changes the way we look at Bob forever. If you're new here, look out. 2DD is an analog horror series told almost entirely through environmental storytelling. There's no narrator explaining the plot to you. There's no on-screen text spelling anything out. Instead, the story hides in the gameplay itself, in item names, in glitching textures, and throwaway lines of dialogue that turn out to matter 3 episodes later.
Man, this house sucks. Let's go.
That's exactly why this community loves picking it apart. Every static burst, every camera angle, every strange detail could be nothing, or it could be everything. And no character sits at the center of that hidden storytelling, quite like Bob. When we first meet Bob, he's likable almost instantly. He's funny, he's helpful. He walks the player through this unfamiliar, hostile world like a friend who already knows where all the exits are. He becomes the guide, the comic relief, the one voice in this nightmare that doesn't feel like a threat. But should we actually trust Bob? Because the very first piece of advice he gives the player quietly sets up one of the strangest mysteries in the entire series.
Crawl spaces. Crawl spaces are necessary additions to any house as it allows for the residents to hide, escape, or be quiet during any type of urgent event.
Bob tells the player to build trapdoors, to use them as a hiding spot from danger. Later in the story, the visitor hides inside a trapdoor. That exact structure, that exact idea. Out of every hiding place available in this world, the story keeps circling back to the one Bob personally recommended. That could be coincidence. It could mean Bob unknowingly helped the visitor without ever realizing it. Or it could mean something a little colder, that Bob was already being shaped by the visitor's influence before the player ever noticed. We don't know which one is true yet, but it's the first thread in a pattern that only gets stranger. In episodes 1 and 2, the loop is simple on the surface. The visitor hides, the player seeks, and if the player fails to find it in time...
Where?
0.
Did I make it in time? No. Oh my god! Bob, save me! Bob!
The game crashes, like the world itself can't continue without that search being completed. Why would losing a simple game of hide-and-seek break reality? Maybe finding the visitor was never just a task. Maybe it's an act of acknowledgement, the world requiring the player to recognize the visitor's existence before the story is allowed to move forward. The crash in that reading isn't a bug, it's a consequence. It's the kind of detail that starts to feel intentional the more you sit with it. Then, episode 3 flips everything we thought we understood. The visitor stops hiding. Now, it hunts the player, 2 episodes built entirely around us searching for it, and then, without warning, the roles reverse completely. Has the visitor grown stronger? Did it finally get whatever it needed from watching us search? In horror storytelling, a reversal like this almost always signals a shift in power. The hunted becoming the hunter is never just a stylistic choice, and it's in this exact moment that Bob tells us something that reforms everything.
Visitor created me to become better builder.
Bob says the visitor created him. Bob says the visitor was bad at building, and Bob says he was made specifically to teach the visitor how to build. But there's a strange inconsistency buried in that origin story. It's widely understood that a male developer originally built its systems.
Apparently, he made a mod to help people improve their skills in building.
Yet inside the story, Bob is adamant that the visitor, a character coded as female, is the one who created everything, including him. Is Bob accurately describing describing the lore as it exists inside the story? Or is the narrative quietly rewriting its own history, replacing the real origin with the figure of the visitor? There are two ways to read this. Maybe the visitor genuinely is the in-universe creator, and the real-world development team is simply irrelevant to the fiction. Or maybe the story is deliberately layering a reconstructed identity over the true origin, using the visitor as a mask for something the narrative doesn't want shown directly. If that's true, it changes Bob's entire role, because if Bob believes the visitor created him, then every single thing he tells us is filtered through that belief, even if it isn't the whole truth. He might be describing the version of reality the visitor wants him to believe.
Failure at building.
What?
Visitor. Failure.
Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Bob criticizes the visitor constantly. He says the visitor is bad at building. He even encourages the player to grief the visitor's bases. On the surface, Bob looks like the resistance, the one voice standing against the threat. But if Bob dislikes the visitor so much, why does every single conversation still revolve around them? This is what manipulation looks like when it's indirect. Nobody has to force your hand if they can simply control where your attention goes. Keeps the visitor at the center of the player's focus. Across the series, the visitors' builds seem to improve over time. Slowly, gradually, they get better, until the visitor creates what looks like their greatest build, their best work. And after that point, every build that follows somehow gets worse. That pattern doesn't have to mean a loss of skill. It could represent something closer to deterioration, the visitor slowly losing something of themselves after that peak. Visitor was dealing with something happening inside their own mind. Something like a brain tumor. The tumor is eventually removed through surgery. The danger on paper is gone, but the decline doesn't stop. Even after the surgery, even after the thing that was supposedly causing the problem is removed, the builds keep getting worse. And that's the unsettling part of this theory. If the tumor is gone, but the deterioration isn't, then maybe the tumor was never the real explanation to begin with. Maybe something was already changing in the visitor long before any diagnosis, and the surgery simply removed a symptom, not the cause. Or maybe the procedure left something behind. Bob's connection to the visitor may run deeper than simple creator and creation. Bob may have tried to preserve the visitor by bringing to the Minecraft world directly, and that the attempt went wrong, leaving behind a corrupted wooden husk instead of the person Bob remembered. If that's true, it reframes something important. When Bob later asks, "Look out to destroy that creature," it may not come from hatred at all. It may come from grief, because what's left standing in front of him isn't the visitor anymore. So maybe the real question was never whether Bob is good or bad or lying or telling the truth. Maybe the real question is whether Bob even has a choice in any of it. And if he doesn't, then I'll leave you with this. If Bob was created by the visitor, how many other creations have been hiding in plain sight this entire time?